I was like, I was like, I was like, I was like.
Life's a trip, so I decided to compile a list of everything that make me say, ain't that a bitch? In order to get a treat, you gotta do a trick that usually leaves you with just being a trick.
Probably 25, maybe 30. At the current rate that I'm going, 20 years or longer. My name is Gavin Witt. I graduated from Temple University with a degree in theater, and I have student loan debt.
And how much do you owe in student loans?
I owe about $50,000.
And when did you receive your first notice in the mail saying that you had to make payments on your student loans?
Shortly after I graduated, I received the notice stating that I would have to repay the loans back within like 6 months, I think.
Okay. How much were the payments when you received the notice?
Because I have separate loans, it varied, but I would say totaling altogether about $400 almost.
Okay. Yeah, so you do have private and federal loans?
Yes, I have private and federal loans.
And are you allowed to consolidate them together or no?
I've consolidated my federal loans, but I have not consolidated my private loans.
Okay. And what stopped you from consolidating your private loans?
At the time, and this is when I first graduated, there was an issue, they said, with me trying to consolidate my private loans. So I never consolidated those, but I have consolidated my federal loans, and since then I haven't made any effort to try to consolidate the private ones.
And how did that make you feel, knowing that you're calling to try to get your loans consolidated, and they're like, oh, it's an issue. Just keep paying your loans, just your private loans at this amount, and it'll be okay. How did that?
It didn't make me feel too well because I did not, and still don't, have a lot of income coming in. So any relief I could get in lowering the bill would be greatly appreciated. So I remember feeling overwhelmed, having to pay all this debt back. It was a very overwhelming feeling.
And so, as far as when you consolidate your loans, when you went on the phone to consolidate them, your federal loans, because you didn't do your private, did they give you, like, were they very disrespectful? Were they rude? Were they telling you, no, you can't pay this amount? And, like, what did they say?
Well, one thing I find out about, especially your federal loans that you get with the government, I think they are the nicest people ever. That's my opinion. I can call them and say that my house is burning down and I can't make a payment, and they really will work with you to help you out so that you're not defaulting, and they give you your options. I can't say that about the private loan sector. Most definitely heartless, cruel. But the federal loans, when I was dealing with them to do my consolidation, they were very helpful, letting me know, how the process would work, when the next payment would be due, what would happen to my loans. I don't have an issue with them at all.
So with the private loans, let's go into that then. Because you said earlier they said that you couldn't consolidate them.
Yeah.
There was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So how, like, you don't have to give me detail of the conversation, but how did you feel the person approached you on the phone when you were like, okay, well, I can't, what's the problem, blah, blah, blah. Did you feel?
They were nasty. They are very nasty, extremely nasty. And I think that because of the laws in place, I think they feel that they can be that nasty because then I think they know that at the end of the day they're going to get their money. To me, they're worse than debt collectors, which is not saying a whole lot, but very rude, very nasty, not helpful in any way at all.
And do you know how much your interest rate is on your federal loans?
My federal loan interest rate, I want to say, is about 4.6, either 4% or 5%. This is after the consolidation.
And how about your private, since you didn't consolidate that yet, how much is the interest rate on your private loans?
about 8%. Yeah, it's a high percentage.
Do they ever see like notices in the mail, like late notices or any type of notice saying they might garnish your wages or anything to make you basically scared or to threaten your life?
Well, I haven't gotten any scare tactics from them yet because, like I said, I've never been that far behind. But, you know, if I am a day late or 2 days late in paying my bill, you know, you get the phone calls, you get the letters, emails. I also get emails from them stating that you haven't paid your bills. So I just think in general, I don't like to deal with them.
And how do you feel about that, knowing that it'll take you 20 years, 30 years to pay your student loans off?
It's daunting. It's disappointing to know that you have this massive debt that's going to take seemingly the rest of your life, or the bulk of your life, to pay off, you know, for a 4-year experience.
Did you know the average student in the UK doesn't have to make payments on their student loans if they reach £21,000, which is equivalent to $42,000 in American money a year? And after a 30-year span, their loans are forgiven.
I did not know that.
And so, do you think they should implement the same thing here in America?
Of
for
course they
students in America?
should.
I'm Christina Faraz. I am a graduate from the University of Houston, Go Cougs, class of 2007. I majored in broadcast journalism with a minor in sociology, and I graduated with no school debt.
Christina, what is your biggest financial woe upon graduating?
My biggest financial woe upon graduation was finding a job. At that time was when the recession had just been defined in our economy, and I was worried about finding a job in that current economic status. It was terrifying. Nobody I knew was graduating with a job in their career and knew what they wanted to do. And hearing that other people were having the same problem as I did was just terrifying.
So your biggest concern at the time was just your immediate needs like rent and food and things of that nature, and not any debt that you've incurred along the way in school?
Yes, my immediate concern was my needs at that moment. I had not accrued any student debt, any debt over school tuition, because I was blessed and my parents paid for the majority of my tuition. However, I did work hard and I did join certain organizations and schools that gave me scholarships that allowed me to also save some money.
Are you currently working in your field of study?
No, I am not working in my current field of study. I took a little detour off my career path and decided to take some time away from communications because by the time I graduated, I was just done so much already in the field that I needed to take a step back. And so right now I'm just trying to pursue my passions and find different ways of creativity for me.
Do you think that it's easier for you to pursue these passions being that you don't have a large debt hanging over your head as student loan debt?
Absolutely. I would say that is absolutely true, and I can personally relate to that because a coworker of mine left our job to go to a job with another retail establishment so that she can make more money, because now is the year that she has to start paying her student loans, and there's no way around it, and she has to pay $1,000 every month for these loans, and she cannot afford it working at our current establishment and place of work. So she left to get another job. So I understand that I am blessed and I have the ability to pursue different avenues of passion, whereas those who have that student debt might not be able to.
And how exactly did you pay for school?
My parents paid for the majority of it, and then I was given a scholarship through an organization called Ambassadors. So what I did was represent the school in school spirit and give school tours to anybody who wanted to visit the campus, and I was then, my tuition was then subsidized.
The United Kingdom, higher education was free until 1998.
Okay.
But then afterwards it cost £3,000 in the year 2006 and has since increased. Do you think that maybe that's something that America should consider, making education free or subsidizing it in a way, since we've had the model of always having to pay for it? Do you think that's whether we can reverse the situation around then?
I think it's an interesting concept. I believe it would have ramifications in other ways down the road. Just like the butterfly effect, if you change one thing, other things are definitely going to change. However, like I said, it's an interesting concept to be able to have a completely educated society in which you have no excuse as to not have an education. That would then propel our education, our healthcare, our banking system, everything else that we have set up right now for our government, our bureaucracy. So it's an interesting concept, and I think it would be something well worth exploring in the future, definitely.
And I was like, and I was like, and I was like, and I was like,
Life's a trip, so I decided to compile a list of everything that make me say, ain't that a bitch? In order to get a treat, you gotta do a trick that usually leaves you with just being a trick. Now that's the type of bras I got a real problem with. Wanna ride by my side like they in